You've probably heard the phrase 1,000 times. When you stop wanting, you receive. It sounds mystical, almost too simple. And yet, there's a truth hidden beneath those words that most people never fully grasp. Imagine for a moment standing at the edge of something you've always desired. A dream relationship, financial freedom, the perfect opportunity, or deep inner peace. It's right there, almost close enough to touch. And then it slips away. Not because the universe is cruel, not because you're doing something wrong, but because wanting itself creates an invisible wall between you and the very thing you desire. This is the paradox at the heart of quantum manifestation. The more desperately you want something, the more you declare to the universe that you do not have it. And the quantum field, neutral, responsive, and precise, reflects that state back to you. Wanting says, I lack, and lack attracts more lack. But before you can stop wanting, you must first understand why wanting feels so natural, so automatic. From childhood, we're conditioned to want. We want approval, safety, love, status. We grow up believing that wanting is what drives action. That wanting equals desire, and desire equals achievement. In the physical world, that makes sense, but in the quantum world, where your state of being shapes your reality, wanting is a signal of separation. It's not desire itself that's the problem. It's the frequency of lack behind the wanting that distorts the signal. Picture two people. One walks into a room with quiet confidence, already feeling abundant. The other walks in hoping, craving, yearning to be noticed, to be chosen, to be seen. They both want the same thing. But their energy says completely different things. One says, I already am. The other says, I hope to be. The quantum field listens, and it always responds to who you're being, not what you're begging for. But here's where most people get stuck. How do I stop wanting something I care so deeply about? They try to force detachment, pretending they don't care. But forced detachment is still attachment. It's just wrapped in a new disguise. The universe isn't fooled by words. It reads vibration, frequency, emotional tone, and pretending to be fine when you're not is an alignment. It's resistance. So the journey isn't about silencing your desires. It's about shifting your relationship to them. True quantum manifestation begins not when you erase desire, but when you stop needing desire to define your worth, your timeline, or your reality. When you stop demanding the outcome to prove something about who you are. Think of it like standing in front of a mirror. If you frown at your reflection, it frowns back. If you smile, it smiles. Wanting is like frowning at the mirror and expecting it to smile first. But when you shift into the state of already having, when you embody the frequency of the reality you want, the mirror has no choice but to reflect that. Many people try to manifest with words alone. They write affirmations, visualize, say they trust. But deep down, their frequency is still rooted in lack. It's like transmitting a weak signal through static. The message gets scrambled. True manifestation happens when your frequency becomes clear and unwavering, when you become the signal. And that's where surrender comes in. Not surrender in the sense of giving up, but surrender in the sense of trusting the process more than the outcome. Surrender is alignment. It says, I no longer need to control this to prove my value. It's not passive, it's powerful. Because the moment you stop grasping is the moment the energy can finally flow toward you. Think about water. When you try to clutch it tightly, it slips through your fingers. But when you open your palm, it rests effortlessly. Wanting is clutching, receiving is opening. This is why quantum manifestation isn't a trick or a formula. It's a shift in identity. You don't manifest what you want, you manifest what you are. If you want love but carry the vibration of loneliness, you'll meet circumstances that reflect loneliness. If you want abundance but carry the vibration of fear, you'll encounter obstacles that mirror that fear. But if you begin to embody love, abundance, and trust, not as a performance but as your truth, then reality begins to bend toward that frequency. The hard part isn't learning what to do. It's unlearning what you've been taught. You've been trained to chase, to want, to hustle your way to worth. But the quantum field responds not to your chase but to your state. When you stop chasing, your energy becomes magnetic. When you stop waiting for proof, the proof starts appearing. That's why people say, when I finally stopped caring, everything I wanted showed up. It's not because they didn't care at all. It's because their energy relaxed. They stopped creating resistance. They returned to a state of flow. And the truth is, it's not easy. Stopping wanting isn't as simple as flipping a switch. You can't bypass years of conditioning overnight, but you can begin the process of remembering that your worth isn't waiting at the finish line. It's here. Now, that's where the shift begins. This first shift is internal, not external. It's about shifting your identity from the one who wants to the one who already is. It's subtle but powerful. Instead of waking up saying, I want love, you begin your day saying, I am loved. I am love. Instead of saying, I want abundance, you say, I am abundance, not to trick the universe, but to remind yourself of who you truly are beneath the noise of wanting. Your desire is valid, but your state is what manifests. Most people misunderstand this shift. They hear, stop wanting, and assume it means giving up on their dreams. But that's not what's happening here. You're not abandoning your desires. You're releasing your grip on the outcome. You're moving from a space of needing to a space of knowing. And there's a world of difference between the two. Needing says, I can't be happy until it arrives. Knowing says, I am already whole, and its arrival is inevitable. One is rooted in lack. The other is rooted in alignment. And alignment is the language the quantum field responds to with astonishing precision. Imagine standing in a field of still water. When you thrash around in panic, the ripples you create make it hard to see your reflection clearly. But when you become still, the surface smooths. Your reflection becomes sharp. The reality you want can finally reflect back to you with clarity. That's how energy works. Wanting is energetic thrashing. Alignment is stillness. This doesn't mean you have to stop taking action. Manifestation isn't about sitting on a couch wishing for miracles. It's about acting from the energy of already having, not from desperation. There's a subtle but powerful shift that happens when you make choices as if the outcome is already assured. When your energy says, "Hoot's done," your actions carry a quiet authority. They're no longer frantic or forced. They're precise, inspired, magnetic. Think about the last time something flowed effortlessly in your life. Maybe a conversation unfolded perfectly, or an opportunity seemed to just appear. That wasn't an accident. That was alignment at work. When your frequency matches the frequency of what you want, reality doesn't need to be forced. It begins to reorganize itself around you. But here's the catch: your nervous system has been wired to equate safety with control. The moment you loosen your grip, the mind panics. It whispers, if you stop wanting it so badly, what if it never comes? That fear is the greatest barrier to quantum manifestation, because as long as your energy is anchored in fear, your signal to the field is distorted. This is where trust enters the equation. Not blind trust, but embodied trust. It's the kind of trust that says, I don't need to see the proof to believe it. I believe it, and the proof will follow. It's not pretending everything's fine. It's remembering that the field responds to frequency, not franticness. Think of it like tuning a radio. If you're trying to hear a specific song but your dial is set just a little off, all you'll get is static. Wanting keeps you slightly off frequency. Embodiment tunes you in. When you tune in, you don't have to chase the song. It flows through the speakers naturally, and this tuning process isn't just mental. It's emotional, physical, and spiritual. You can say all the affirmations in the world, but if your body is clenched in anxiety, your signal is still one of lack. That's why the most powerful manifestors don't just think their way into alignment. They feel their way there. They use breath, presence, and self-awareness to shift their entire state. Close your eyes and imagine the version of you who already has what you want. How do they walk? How do they breathe? What do they no longer worry about? What small, invisible shifts in their energy make them magnetic? That's not just a visualization exercise, it's a calibration. You're aligning your frequency to match the outcome rather than begging the outcome to appear. And here's where the paradox deepens. When you fully embody that state, the actual arrival of the manifestation becomes secondary. You're no longer desperate for it because, energetically, you're already living it. Ironically, that's when it arrives faster, because the universe isn't withholding anything from you. It's simply mirroring your state. A person who constantly thinks, I want it so badly, is stuck in the vibration of distance. But a person who silently knows, it's already mine, collapses that distance. They pull the outcome toward them without strain. But this isn't just a metaphysical concept. Even in psychology and neuroscience, this principle echoes. When your brain perceives something as already familiar, it adjusts your behavior to align with that reality. You start making choices that align with the identity of someone who already has what they desire. That's why the inner shift must come first. This is where people often sabotage themselves. They spend hours visualizing and affirming, but live their day as the person who is still waiting. The gap between who they are and who they're trying to become creates resistance. But when you dissolve that gap, when you start to become the version of yourself who has already manifested, it's no longer about hoping. It's about allowing. And allowing is where ease lives. When you're in a state of allowing, your nervous system softens. Your energy expands. Opportunities, synchronicities, and nudges start showing up, not because you forced them, but because you opened the door. Wanting is like banging on a locked door with urgency. Allowing is realizing the door was never locked in the first place. Now, this doesn't mean you'll never feel moments of doubt. Doubt is human. Fear is human. The key isn't to eliminate these feelings, but to stop identifying with them. To let them pass through like clouds instead of letting them become your weather. In those moments when the urge to want, to grasp, to control resurfaces, you return to your state. You breathe. You remember who you are. You remind yourself that the field doesn't respond to begging, it responds to being. Think of your desire like a seed. Wanting is like digging it up every day to see if it's growing. Alignment is planting it, watering it, and trusting the soil. The seed doesn't need your panic, it needs your trust. The people who seem to manifest effortlessly aren't luckier or more special. They've just learned how to align their state with their desire, instead of standing in opposition to it. They've stopped chasing and started allowing. The truth is, when you no longer need the outcome to complete you, that's when you become the most powerful creator, because your energy is no longer fragmented. It's focused, coherent, whole, and when your energy becomes whole, the universe recognizes it instantly. Because coherence is clarity, and clarity is a magnet. If you've ever experienced a moment when something just clicked, without you trying, you already know what quantum manifestation feels like. It's that moment of effortless alignment, where life seems to move with you instead of against you. No pushing, no begging, just an unfolding. That's the state that becomes available when you stop wanting. Not because you've stopped desiring, but because you've stopped signaling to the universe that you are incomplete without it. The essence of true manifestation is identity, not effort. The world you live in is an echo chamber of your state of being. If your state is one of wanting, the echo you get back is more situations that keep you wanting. But when your state is one of already having, already being, the echo changes. The field responds to the frequency you emit with mathematical precision. It's like two tuning forks. If one is vibrating at a certain frequency, and you bring another close to it, the second fork begins to vibrate at the same frequency through resonance. Your desires are like that second tuning fork. The universe doesn't chase after your words, it responds to your frequency, and frequency can't be faked. You can't whisper, "I have it," while every cell in your body screams, "I don't." That's why so many people feel stuck. They're saying the right things, but they're living in the wrong vibration. Here's where the real shift happens. The moment you stop wanting, you stop pushing your desire away. Because wanting is always built on the illusion of separation. I am here, and what I want is over there. But there is no over there. In the quantum field, everything exists as potential in the same field of now. The only thing that creates distance is your state. And when your state changes, the potential collapses into reality. You've likely seen this in small ways throughout your life. The moment you stop obsessing over someone texting you back, the message appears. The moment you stop trying to force an opportunity, another one opens naturally. This isn't coincidence, it's coherence. It's resonance. It's the moment the frequency of lack drops away, and what was always possible finally has room to come through. And this doesn't just apply to love or success. It applies to everything. The frequency of ease is the frequency of creation. The universe doesn't speak in words, it speaks in states. And the language of states is subtle, quiet, and precise. But here's something most people miss. This isn't about pretending to be happy when you're not. It's not about bypassing your emotions or forcing positivity. That's just another layer of wanting disguised as spirituality. True alignment doesn't demand perfection. It requires authenticity. When you acknowledge what you're feeling, without attaching your identity to it, you create space. And in that space, your natural frequency can rise. Say you're manifesting love. Wanting says, "I need someone to make me feel loved." Alignment says, "I am love, and the right person is simply a mirror of what I've already become." Say you're manifesting wealth. Wanting says, "I need money to prove I'm safe." Alignment says, "I am already secure and wealth flows to match my state." The difference might sound subtle, but energetically, it's everything. So how do you shift from wanting to being? Not by trying to control the outcome, but by becoming the version of yourself who would no longer need to want it. This means tuning into the emotional state of already having it, not as a fantasy, but as an inner reality. It's not daydreaming, it's embodiment. Close your eyes and imagine just for a moment that your desire is already here, that the version of you living in that reality is not in the future, but right now. How does it feel in your chest? How does your breath change? What does your body release? This is not pretending. This is aligning. When you live in that state consistently, reality has no choice but to rearrange itself. Because the quantum field is neutral, it mirrors what you broadcast. If your state is lack, lack will be mirrored. If your state is fullness, fullness will be mirrored. This is why the masters, the mystics, and the most magnetic people throughout history all point to the same truth in different ways. Stop grasping, and it will come. But this truth can feel confronting, because letting go of wanting requires trust. Not the kind of trust that comes from guarantees, but the kind that comes from knowing your power. When you stop wanting, your mind might panic at first. It will scream, but what if it never happens? This is the ego's last grip on control. And this is exactly the moment where your greatest expansion lies. Because manifestation isn't about getting what you want. It's about becoming the version of yourself for whom what you want is simply normal. It's not a prize. It's not proof. It's just part of your reality. Think about the things in your life right now that once felt impossible. At some point, those desires became normal. You no longer wake up every day hoping for them. They just are. That's the energy you bring to your next level. And here's something even more powerful: when you stop wanting, you open yourself up to receiving not just what you think you want, but what is actually aligned with your highest state. Because sometimes the universe isn't saying, no, it's saying, not that, something better. Wanting locks you into a single narrow timeline. Alignment opens infinite doors. That's why surrender is not a weakness. It's the highest form of strength. When you surrender, you say, I no longer need to control how and when this happens. I trust the intelligence of the field that created me. It's the moment your energy goes from constricted to expansive, and expansive energy is irresistible to the universe. This is the silent power behind people who seem lucky. They've learned, consciously or unconsciously, how to stop needing and start allowing. And because their state is clear, the field responds quickly. If you really want to understand this on a deeper level, observe your own life. Notice the moments when things have flowed effortlessly, and the moments when you've struggled. The struggle isn't proof you're broken. It's just feedback. It's showing you where you've been trying to manifest from lack instead of alignment. The shift doesn't happen overnight. It happens in quiet, consistent moments. In choosing to return again and again to your state. In choosing to breathe instead of grasp. In choosing to remember that the field responds to your being, not your begging. So the next time you find yourself spiraling and wanting, when your mind says, why isn't it here yet? Pause. Feel your feet on the ground. Breathe into the present moment. Remind yourself wanting is distance. Being is arrival. You are not manifesting a thing. You are manifesting a state. And once you become that state fully, the thing is inevitable. When you stop wanting, you stop pushing it away. You open the door. You invite it in. And without the weight of desperation, it finds you with ease.